Hello again, boys and girls. Now, as we left our story before, we saw Jesus being laid into the tomb. And so I'm going to begin with the story of the resurrection. Our story says, on the third day after Jesus' death, Mary Magdalene went to Jesus' tomb. It was still dark, and she saw that the large stone at the entrance had been moved away. Mary ran to Simon Peter and John. "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and I don't know where they have put him," she said. Peter and John ran to the tomb. John looked inside and saw the linen clothes lying there. Then Peter went into the tomb and saw the linen clothes too. The cloth that had been around Jesus' head was folded up. John believed that Jesus was alive. Then Peter and John went back home. Mary went back to the tomb and cried. When she looked inside, she saw two angels. They said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "Because they've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've put him," she said. Then Mary turned around. Jesus stood in front of her, but she did not recognize him. Jesus said, "Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for?" Mary thought Jesus might be the gardener, so she replied, "Sir, if you have taken Jesus away, tell me where you've put him, and I will go get him." Jesus said, "Mary." Mary realized who he was and said, "Teacher." Jesus sent Mary to tell the other disciples that he was going back to the Father. Mary did what Jesus said, and she told the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." Meanwhile, some of the guards from Jesus' tomb went into the city and told the religious leaders everything that had happened. The leaders got together and made a plan. They gave the soldiers a lot of money and told them to lie about what they saw. "Say that Jesus' disciples came in the night and stole his body while you were sleeping." The guards took the money and lied about Jesus' resurrection. Now that story is taken out of Matthew 28 and John 20. So as we tell this story, we see that God raised Jesus from the dead to defeat sin and death. See, he didn't stay in the grave. Had Jesus stayed in the grave, we could not know salvation today. But because God gave him the power to rise up out of that grave and come back alive, he gives us that same power to be born again and to live again once we have passed from this earth. We will live on forever. And that's because of Jesus' resurrection. And so we see that in our story today, we have the hope of the resurrection, the hope of life eternal forever and ever with Jesus. Now, I wanted to go straight into our story today, but I also wanted to go ahead and tell you that we started beginning today, and beginning this week, we started our Out of the Grave unit. And this is going to tell us several stories about who Jesus appeared to, what happened, and all the great things that happened after Jesus was raised from the dead. So that's what we'll be doing the next few weeks. I want us to look, as we normally do in our new unit, we have a verse and a question. So our big question is, where is Jesus now? And the answer is, Jesus ascended to the Father in heaven, where he is seated at the right hand of the Father. So Jesus right now is in heaven, and because he is God, he can look down on each and every person on this earth and know all about them and be right here for us, for each and every one of us. And I know that sounds like that's so out of this world. Well, it is out of this world, but it's true. Our verse says, and if you remember the story about Martha and Mary when their brother Lazarus died, and Martha was upset because Jesus had not come in time, then Jesus was explaining to Martha who he was. And so in this verse is where we're seeing this out of John chapter 11 and verse 25. So Jesus said to her, Martha, Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." So that gives us that hope, that assurance, that life is going to live on forever. And if we believe in Jesus, we will live on forever with him too. He is the resurrection and the life. He came out victorious out of that grave. And because he is victorious out of the grave, you and I can live in victory too. We don't have to worry about death or dying or any of those other things, because Jesus has that all in his hand, and we can trust him. And I hope you do. And God bless you, and thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.